What's good, YouTube? It's of course Leviathan Prophecy, and before I get into this video, like, comment, subscribe. So, I'm on this group on Facebook called Knicks versus Nets, and it's a very good group. I'll put the link in the description box down below if y'all want to check it out. Yeah, I can. It has over, I think, 12K people in there, so it's jam packed, right? And you know, I said the I said that I have a few reasons why the Nets won't win the championship this year, right? Number one, Kyrie Irving. Now, obviously, Kyrie Irving can only play on the road, right? So let's say if it's like a game seven, let's say it's the Nets versus the Bulls, right? In the Eastern Conference Finals, and it's a game seven, and it takes place on the Bulls. Like game seven takes place at the Bulls. No. Let's say game seven takes place at the Barclays Center. Guess what? Kyrie Irving can't play any home games. And we all know how James Harden flames out in the playoffs. He's a no-go. I mean, the last decent playoff game he played was when he was with the Rockets, right? And I don't want people to come on here and thinking that I'm bashing the Nets, because I am bashing the Nets. They're garbage. They suck. Let me rephrase that. The Nets are good until somebody pushes back, right? Like the Nets are first place. Hey, a lot can change. A lot can change from here all the way until March. You know what I'm saying? So this notion that the Nets are great now, obviously, they are playing great basketball. Even with half of their roster on COVID protocol, they're still playing decent basketball. They picked up a lot of veterans. Patty Mills, Aldridge, Paul Millsap. You know what I'm saying? But again, when push comes to shove, it's gonna boil down at the end, right? Okay, so we got Kyrie out the way. Kyrie Irving is the determining factor of this whole entire team right now. Because you need Kyrie, you need that third wheel. Every single team that has won a championship from 2010 all the way through 2020 has a factor, has that X factor guy. Who's going to be that X factor? For the Spurs, it was Manu Ginobili. For the Heat, it was Dwayne Wade. For the Lakers, it was either Kobe or Shaq. For the Pistons, it was Ben Wallace. You know what I'm saying? The Bucks, obviously, was Giannis. For the Raptors, it was Kawhi. Or I think it was Van Vliet. Because Van Vliet played a lot. He played his ass off in our playoffs. So you go back to the Golden State Warriors. You could probably say KD was the X factor. So each NBA championship team had an X factor. Who can you possibly say is the X factor on the Nets? The Nets right now, they're playing very, very good team basketball. They're not playing great basketball. They're just playing oriented team basketball. There's a difference, And yeah, my Knicks are struggling. We're gonna make the playoffs. God, this stupid fly. We're gonna make the playoffs, or the play-in tournament. Because I don't think we're gonna have enough good of a record. Even though there's some pretty good teams out there ahead of us, the Hawks, the Raptors, the Boston Celtics, I think we could possibly sneak in. You know what I'm saying? So number one is Kyrie. Number two is coaching. Now, obviously, people say that coaching doesn't matter. If you have the players just sit back, kick your legs out, sip tea, and just let them do the playing. Well, I disagree. Coaching does matter in any sport. Coaching matters. Coaching matters more in the NFL than it does the NBA, because when you have the talent, you don't have to do too much, But when you don't have the right talent, then you have to mix and match and do all this, and you see what the Knicks are doing to Kemba. You can't really do that to James Harden because you know what you're gonna get from James Harden in the regular season. You know what I'm saying? But when it comes to the playoffs, he just flames out. I don't know why. But in terms of coaching, as great as Steve Nash was as a point guard, you see why he would always get flamed out against Kobe, against Dirk, against the Spurs. Every single time he got close, he would get either derailed by injuries or other players around him would get derailed by injuries. Right? So you stop the bleeding by being a great head coach. Now, obviously, it's going to come down to coaching in the playoffs, right? It's going to come down to coaching in the playoffs because, yes, the Nets, they can turn it up in the regular season. They can score 130, 140. That's great. The same style of offense that Mike D'Antoni had with Nash, with Carmelo, you can see why they didn't work in the playoffs, because that type of system is based on that type of system. I forgot what the system was called. I think it was called 60 minutes or less or something like that, because they had the Suns back in the day with Nash and Marion and Stat. They had the highest efficiency rating in the NBA. I think 3 or 2 straight years. They had the best record, and obviously Nash stole the MVP from Shaq. A lot of people thinking that Shaq should have won that MVP, but Nash was just on another level. You know what I'm saying? But in terms of pacing, in terms of play calling, you know, the Nets don't have the matchup like some other teams have. Like if they run against the Heat, or they run it, or if they run into the Heat, or they run into the Bulls, or they run into the Bucks again. Those guys can mix. Those guys can mix and match because they have the depth and they have the length. The Nets don't have that. They have a whole bunch of old guys. Paul Millsap, he hasn't really had playoff success all too much. Aldridge, he never had playoff success all too much. Blake Griffin, as great as he is, you saw him flame out in the playoffs way too much. So you got guys that haven't had the success that they should have had in the playoffs. You know what I'm saying? Now that he got PJ Tucker, which obviously PJ Tucker caused a lot of chaos on the defensive side when he was with the Bucks. You saw how he got underneath Kevin Durant's skin. You saw how he got underneath James Harden's skin. So he's that little pesky player that nobody wants to give credit to, but he does a damn job. He does a good job every single time because he takes you out your element. He took Kevin Durant out his element. You know what I'm saying? So if the Nets run into those type of teams, they're done. They're done. If they run if the Nets face like the Hawks in the first round or the Sixers, they could get past those teams easily because yes, the Hawks do got shooters, but they just don't have the matchup wise, Or if they run into the 76ers outside of Joel Embiid, who can you really trust, with the ball in their hands, when you need that last shot. You know, even though Ben Simmons is, doing what he's doing right now, or going through what he's going through right now, you can't say that, oh, Ben Simmons is our best option, because we all see what he did last year. He gave up that pass. He gave up that layup to a pass, and it wind up making him go to the free throw line. And I think he bricked like 2 shots or whatever. So coaching matters in the playoffs. It may not matter in the regular season, but it matters in the playoffs. And third, Kevin Durant is going to have to do so much. Kevin Durant is going to have to literally go out there in every single game and score at least 60 to 50 points every single game for them to stay upright. And you saw how Jason Tatum had to carry the Celtics last year, right? When Brown went down, you saw how he went to the lengths to score 41, 42 points, and it still wasn't enough. Why? Because he didn't have the help. Now that Brown is getting better and he's staying out of injury problems, who knows? Who knows, So I just think that KD's going to have to do too much and so much for the Nets to win, and it's not going to be close, because in away games, at home games, you're going to need Kyrie down the stretch. Like Kyrie is your closer. James Harden can be your closer. But at the end of the day, we all know who the ball is going to go to in the fourth quarter. Now, like I said, they're all capable of making that shot. But do you really trust either of those two in the ball with the last second? So that's all I have, to be honest with you. People can take it as a grain of salt. I know Vegas is very, very hard on, on the Nets every single year, and the Nets have not won anything, or the Nets have not done anything since they got together. Isn't that odd? Like, you look at the Boston's big three when they have Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, Wade Allen. At least they won a championship. It may not have been twice. People could say, yeah, they could have beaten LA twice, because I think they faced LA in 08 and 09, if I'm not mistaken. Or I think in 2010. But you could say that Boston could have won 2 championships if they kept that core together, when they had big Glenn Baby Davis and Rondo and all those cats. You can say that they could have won another championship, but they only had one. They only won one. But it didn't even take that long for them to win a championship. Why? Because they had the coach in Doc Rivers. They had the right personnel. They had the right players in the right system. You don't see that from the Nets. Year after year, the Nets are supposed to, it was supposed to be the Nets and the Lakers. Turned out it didn't. That's what happens when reality meets high expectations. You thinking that the Nets and the Lakers are going to meet, but it winds up being somebody else. This year, it wasn't even all that, like in the bubble, it was supposed to be the Lakers and the Nets. Didn't happen. It wound up being the Lakers and the Heat. The next following year, again, the Lakers. The media was just pushing the narrative. Oh, the Lakers and the Nets, the Lakers and the Nets. Was not even remotely close. Lakers was dealing with a bunch of injuries. LeBron James was out. So it was the Suns and the Bucks, The year after, I think 4 years after that, it was Kevin Durant. It was the Nets and the Lakers again, but obviously Kevin Durant was out due to the leg injury, so it was the Golden State Warriors versus the Raptors, and obviously the Raptors won their first championship in forever, So why is it taking the Nets so long to get where they want to get? Now, again, if the Nets flame out in the playoffs again, they're going to have to do some soul searching and say, you know what? Nash, you're a great player, future Hall of Famer, but you're not the right fit, you know? And oh, geez, golly, Wally. Like, I've been telling everybody that. like, as, like, it's not Nash's fault. He's just not experienced enough. Now, if they had a veteran head coach like a Tom Thibodeau, like Eric Spoelstra or Nick Nurse, hell, Nick Nurse was in his third year. Was going into his fourth or third year as head coach, and he won a championship. So you have to have a championship level head coach. And Steve Nash is just not it. I'm sorry. So for y'all Nets fans that's getting hyped up, oh, we have the best. Okay, calm down. Things can change from here all the way to March. Okay, so the Nets are going to lose a lot of games because they have a lot of players in COVID protocol. So they're going to drop a few games. Like what is their record right now? Their record is 18-9. So they can literally lose 10 games. That'll put them at 18. No, that'll put them at 19-19. But obviously I think they'll probably squeeze in a few games. But a lot of things can happen from here and there. Look at my Knicks. Like the past 3 months, they were ranked 4th in the power ranking. Now they're ranked, 11th? So a lot of things can change, So, it is what it is, man. We'll see. I don't want to keep on I don't want to keep on sounding like a broken record. But the Nets will never win a championship. Like, why KD came here was because to get his branding up. Why Kyrie came in here? Same issue. Why James Harden came here? Same issue. Like, they don't really care, because if they cared, they would have took this shit seriously. They would have took this seriously. Especially last year, they should have took it seriously. Like, you see why Nash, when he had his big three with Shawn Marion, Stoudemire, and himself, they were destroying the NBA in the regular season, but come playoff, they was getting pushed around. Whether it was by the Bulls, no, not the Bulls, I'm saying the Bulls. Whether it was by the Mavericks, whether it was by the Lakers with Kobe, whether it was by, the Spurs with the big three themselves. So every single opportunity they got, they got flamed out. Go watch the documentary on why Steve Nash never won a championship. And you'll see why he never won a championship. The Mike D'Antoni system wasn't tailor-made for the playoffs. It was tailor-made for the regular season. That's why they called it 60 seconds or less. Or I think that was called. I think that was what it's called. Like there was number one in everything in the damn regular season, but when it came to the playoffs, the Dodgers was shutting them in the face. Like it happens, man. It happens. So come to find out, Mike D'Antoni is an assistant on that team, so that makes it more the merrier. So I think Stoudemire is on that coaching staff too. So I love Stoudemire. Stoudemire was great for us. He was in discussion for MVP that year. It was him, LeBron, Kevin Durant when he was in Oklahoma, Derrick Rose, obviously. So, Kevin Durant was in contention of MVP, but obviously that went to LeBron James. And obviously Melo messed it all up by coming here because we were doing pretty good without him. When he was with Denver, we were doing pretty good, So, that messed up the whole chemistry and they just never clicked. So, that's another story for another day. I'm going to talk about that topic as well. Why Stoudemire and Carmelo Anthony didn't actually click like they were supposed to. Um, but you know, it is what it is. Like, comment, subscribe. Until next time, take care of yourself and each other.